Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
Intane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to our first episode of Baskets of Knowledge for 2026. Hopefully you've all had a fantastic summer. This is if you're listening to this in 2026. If you're not, hopefully you're doing fantastic whenever you hear this podcast. As always, we start off with a bit of a share. Tane can't join us today. He's away doing some pretty cool things. And the one thing that has been sitting in my mind is I heard a quote today when I was on the bus, and it really got me thinking. The quote basically said that in life, we all have disappointment. But if you think about disappointment, disappointment is the gap between expectation and reality. And that got me thinking about, wow, that's a really profound way to think about disappointment and how we think about reality and expectations. So I'm just going to let that sit there. You can think about whatever you want that there, but that's my share for you today. But this podcast is not about me. It is about our guests. And as you know, we scour the country and the world to find people that we think are amazing. We know everyone's is amazing and has got a story to tell. This particular guest today is someone that we've been trying to get onto the podcast for a while. And for those of you that have been following for a while, you notice there's a bit of a trend with this year. We try and get someone on, and it takes some time to get them on. But the time we get them on is the perfect time because the universe manifests ways to make sure that this is the correct time for that person to be on the podcast with us. So I'm very lucky, very privileged, and really honored to welcome to Baskets of Knowledge our guest today, who is someone that I didn't know about until a few months ago. And when I got to know about them, I was like, what an epic human in what they do in so many different ways. So kia ora, salam, and welcome to our podcast, Rinad.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Kia ora, salam, and I'm very excited about this.
Beautiful. Rinad, people who know nothing about who you are, who are you today on the 13th of January 2026?
I am a very grateful wife, mother, daughter, and person to be alive. I'm very grateful right now. And yeah, Rinad Tamimi, 30 years old, just living life day by day.
Yeah, day by day. This is who you are today. Now, I love the way you put that phraseology as, a wife, a mother, and a person that's grateful to be alive. Because if we go back and let's just say, if we asked you this question, say, 20 years ago, what would you have said at that point in time?
Yeah, at that point of time, I was probably, I was 10 years old. We were planning on coming to New Zealand, and God knows what was on my mind at the time. Probably some shoes to buy, or a dress to buy, or some books for school. I would not have thought that I would be here today. So, alhamdulillah, grateful.
Yeah, and for our listeners who don't know much about your story, so you said you were coming to New Zealand. Where were you coming from, and what is life like for that to happen?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in Palestine, and I am from Hebron in the West Bank in Palestine. I grew up in Palestine up until I was 13 years old. And then my amazing, smart, and beautiful mother she got a scholarship to come to New Zealand to study at the University of Otago to continue to pursue her PhD. At the time, we knew nothing about New Zealand. We did not know where New Zealand even was on the map. Nothing. We heard maybe the furthest we've heard of would have been Australia. But yeah, I was a 13-year-old, had to jump on a plane, 17-hour flight, a few planes, and got to Ōtepoti, Dunedin, which I call my second home now.
Yeah, and what is that like for you as a 13-year-old? And I put that into context because you come from a country and a place that is so different as a 13-year-old and as a 13-year-old landing in. And I'm going to put this in the nicest way possible because when I moved to Dunedin as well, it was the widest place I've ever been to in my life. And I landed and I was like, what is going on here? And my mind is just blown.
Yeah, the biggest culture shock you could ever be in. New culture, new people, new language, new accent, new dialect. The weather, we arrived here in 2008 in August, and we all know what August could be like, well, is like in Dunedin in particular. Freezing cold, didn't even know what a hot water bottle was. Auntie Hilda introduced me to it. I would love if she was listening to this. She'll know who I'm talking about, obviously. Yeah, she introduced us to hot water bottles. Um, Everything was new, having to get school uniform, having to um, get get a school bag, lunch boxes, literally everything. Everything was unique and new and just weird to start off with.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that because I moved from Zimbabwe to New Zealand and I was a bit older. I was in my 20s when I moved over. But even for me, it was such a crazy shock in so many different ways. So I'm just trying to think about you and your amazing mum. Those are your words, your amazing smart mum, coming here to do her PhD, but also bringing her family along as well, which, yes, a PhD is challenging enough as it is, but now bringing your family along into a new world is also going to be another layer of not complexity, but another layer of challenges as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just yeah, I guess you're taking yourself, you're taking your it was just me and my brother at the time, but I've got a sister now too, who was actually born in New Zealand. I think from the second year we were here. But yeah, basically taking your family with you and not knowing what life could be like in New Zealand, no matter how much you prepare, no matter how much you talk to people prior to moving, for people, giving you advice, buying this, pack that. No matter what, how much you prepare, nothing is like normal life or real life here because yeah, you simply did not know what to expect.
It's so funny. I relate to that there because I had a chuckle when you're talking about a hot water bottle. I had no idea what a puffer jacket was, no idea what a long
Yeah,
johns on were. And someone said to me, "Go to Kathmandu." I was like, "Kathmandu's in Nepal. Why would I go to Kathmandu? What are you talking about?" It just my mind was just blown.
I know.
So
Like when I was, yeah, well, I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But when I was traveling recently, actually to Palestine, I don't know, but a few times in airports, I saw puffer jackets, and when you see puffer jackets, you're like, yeah, something New Zealand sings to you, or something.
uh,
You're like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, it's so crazy when you start seeing those outfit. I can say outfits because it's pretty synonymous with where you end up spending a lot of your life, which is pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
it is. Yeah,
And what is it like for you going through the schooling system at that time? And as you navigate it, I'm going to talk about schooling going into university.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I guess I was a 13-year-old, went to Otago High School in Dunedin. Yeah, went with my school bag, with my uniform. I was sitting in the classroom, basically kind of understanding what's going on, especially in maths and science, and really wanting to chip in, really wanting um, to contribute and and to talk and to answer. And I literally did study most of the things they were going through in year 9 here at the time, where in Palestine I had just left after finishing year 7. So I could understand it all, but no English, nothing. We only learned English as a second language back in Palestine. And so when I came here, of course, the Kiwi accent got to me, and I was like, oh, this is a whole nother world. What are you talking about? Um, and making friends, that was of course very hard. um, Lots of I wouldn't say lots of bullying, but kind of maybe harmless bullying, or people just making comments about you, or the way you look, or the way your school bag looks, or the stuff you have in your lunchbox. And that's actually when I met Iman, who introduced you, well, told you about me. We were both in the ESOL classes together, which was really nice. She was probably the only Arab friend I knew at the time. There were literally probably no like other Arabs in Dunedin. And yeah, we started. Yeah, it was nice to have someone who speaks the language and speaks. Yeah, and then we started our journey in high school, I guess.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because when you're a different culture and I'm gonna say this in like when you're a minority in a place where there's the majority, and children are children and they say things and because they've never seen something different before they say things, and
Mm,
when you look, you're like, actually, it's not their fault because it's something new, and then it comes across as bullying. But young people are young people, and the more I think about young people, I'm like, all right, cool. At some point, it's not their fault, but at some point, it becomes the parents that need to come into play there, and it's really, really
definitely.
complex and interesting worlds. And you finished up, and then you decided to stay in Dunedin because you love the cold, and you went to the
Yes,
University of
I
Otago.
love the cold so much. Yes.
Yeah.
So throughout high school, grew out of my whole scariness of English, learned English, got to feel more confident in myself and who I am, and speak the language, start picking up subjects at school and things that I wanted to do. Became an IT prefect in year 13, which meant a lot at the time, but now it's like, oh, IT prefect, like cool. For me, it was cool. And then after that, I think it was when I was in year 13, I had applied for the AMP People's Choice Award.
Hmm.
Um, and I won that in 2012 and that gave me $10,000 to it was to use in whichever dream I had, but I did use it towards university to study information science and marketing. Still have a student loan, but it's not as big as it would be without this scholarship. Um, I did face a lot of racism and a lot of things when I applied for that scholarship. Um, so I'm proud of that milestone. And then, yeah, university. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'd love to talk about the racism bit there, because we talk about, scholarships, equal opportunity and blah blah blah. But if we talk about the reality of what it's like for you, do you mind sharing with the
Yeah,
listeners what
no,
it's like for you? Yeah.
I would love to the point that if you look up my name under AMP Choice Awards 2012, for some reason you can't see my video on YouTube that was taken at the time because of how much drama happened at the time. Basically, there were other people participating, and should all be equal, and all you needed to be to do to be eligible for the to apply for the scholarship was that you needed to have a dream. You put up a profile basically, and you just needed to be I don't think not even a New Zealand citizen, maybe a permanent resident, which I was at the time. And yeah, just put your dream out there, and then the way that it was all based on voting. And of course, I have a tribe back home that buttons, 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 voting, voting, voting. There was a particular person from Australia who started um, a big thing on social media about me and saying, she's not even from New Zealand. Why should she win? She should go back to her own country, etc., etc., etc. My dream that I labeled at the time was that I wanted to help the elderly with IT. And I am still passionate about IT, and in my everyday life, I'm still working IT and helping people with IT, which is great. But at the time, so he sort of just made fun of my dream and was like, "Oh, what's IT going to what's this going to do to the world? We've got people wanting to treat cancer patients. We're wanting, which, all respect to that, we each have a dream, but I'm not a doctor or a you know dentist or any of that. We each keep to our own circle of what we can do. um, and it went to the point of him calling me, or me receiving a phone call at one point. And it was someone pretending to be from AMP themselves and basically saying, "Hey, Rinad, you don't need to gather more votes because, you have won. You have won. So for us, you have won, but we're just going to make it look like you haven't won and just announce you later," or something just a bit fishy. And then we had to contact the police at the time, let them know. There was also, I don't know if you remember 4chan. Do you know
Mhm.
4chan? It's like a
Yep.
big, yeah.
Yeah.
So that my photos and my everything was all over that, and yeah, basically people being quite racist. Yeah, if you look it up, if you just look up my name on Google, it does come up as one of the ODT articles at the time. Yeah, but in the end, I won that scholarship and beated racism, I guess, at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that there because a lot of people think we live in a world where racism doesn't exist, and and I laugh at that there because, and I always remember this. One of my colleagues said this to me, and it's been profound. She said to me, she's a white blonde lady, and she said to me, "Hey, Prajesh, I will never understand racism because I've never had racism, and the
Yeah.
same way that you will never understand what it's like being a woman." And I was like, that is so true because how do we do that there, right? And
Yeah.
it was really funny, Renat. A few months ago, I posted a LinkedIn article about the new Air New Zealand CEO, and he had huge racist,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that became my most viewed article on LinkedIn. I was like, what about my normal stuff? Okay, but anyway, but I'm coming to that because it just shows that still humans out there still it doesn't matter whether people go, but it's 2026, doesn't actually matter. Those base things which we spoke about before. If the young people, we can't blame them, but we blame the parents, and I use the word blame because because it's got to start from somewhere.
Yeah.
And even though you had the sort of bullying happening, but as you're getting older, you're seeing this still coming up in different ways in your life. And if you think about the stuff that you do today as well, it's adults that haven't accepted the fact that a human is a human. It doesn't matter what skin color you are or whatever. So thank you for sharing that there. And I'm glad you won. Yay. More power to
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$10,000 that went towards my university life, which was great.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny. You did information science, and I used to teach information science, so I probably left just after you joined.
Oh, now I'm like, you look a bit familiar.
Uh,
Yep. Yep.
I used to share an office with Iman's dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I
So
obviously knew her dad and that at the time,
yeah,
and her brother, and yeah, big.
and a brother.
They basically all studied information science. Well, not all of them, but yeah, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Abdullah was one of my students, one of my problem students.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I
Ooh,
see where I would have seen you before.
yeah, maybe he oh that guy.
Maybe.
But yeah,
Yeah.
maybe who knows. But what I want to talk about is because this is awesome. This is we have the foundation and but your world has changed dramatically now. The world has changed dramatically for you and Palestine. And if we just shift a little bit and talk about how that's you're proudly from Palestine when you left when you're 13, you've got your tribe there, your people there. And the world has changed dramatically for you as you look at the way the world tells a story about where you come from. I'd love to know your take on how you see the world from your eyes.
At the moment,
That's such a big question, right? That's a massive question.
yeah,
Let's
it is. I
let's
don't know what to. Yeah. Well,
let's
yeah.
let's 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 yeah, that's such a massive question. Why don't we go? Why don't we take it from where the world was, where the world you grew up in versus the world now in Palestine?
Yeah. I guess for me, and this is something I've experienced recently, is that in the past 2 years, I've never felt more proud, more grateful, and more privileged to be a Palestinian living in today's world.
Hmm.
Today's world, I really don't know where it's going.
Hmm.
We don't know where it's going. And when the whole thing in Palestine genocide started um, in October 2023, we did, as Palestinians, we warned the world. We said to everyone, this is going to happen to you soon if you don't stand up for Palestinians. And now we're seeing other countries being involved, and we're seeing other parts of the world also being affected by, the big people that want the money and they want the oil and the greedy people in the world. I see the world, yeah, it's more scary than when I was a child, because when I was a child living in Palestine, I was living in Palestine. It was my everyday life. I knew what I was doing. I knew what we were up to. Everything was just normal to me. But now seeing it with my adult eyes, it's scary. And I am a mother and I'm scared for my child. And but at the same time, I'm grateful that I'm breathing right now. I'm grateful I've got a shelter, a roof on the top of my head. I've got a job. I've got water. I've got food. So I think it taught me a lot about on how to be grateful and on how to, literally just be grateful for the moments and be grateful for what you have. And also, no matter what I go through or what problems I go through, it's nothing compared to what our people have gone through in the past 2 years in particular. So that's where I see it, the world at the moment. But it's a very scary place.
Yeah, and it's all about perspective, right? I love the way you put that. Then perspective is such an interesting,
Yeah.
when you think about, sometimes we complain about things in New Zealand, and then you think about, you're part of the world, Palestine. I think about Zimbabwe. You think about, other parts of the world that are not in the news sometimes. And you go, actually, it's okay. There's nothing to really complain. I mean, yes, we all complain about things, but
Yeah.
it's all perspective. Um, and I'd love to know, you're in Ōtepoti, Dunedin, which is miles and miles and kilometers away from your home. What does it feel for you like when you see what's happening and you now want to be a voice for your people here, so far away?
It feels a bit surreal because I know what's happening in my homeland. I've lived what's happening under my homeland, and sometimes it makes me feel like it's a bit sad that you still have to stand up and convince the world that killing children is wrong, that taking basic human needs from a human being is wrong, that stopping basically international aid organizations from helping people in need is wrong. Um, I feel privileged and grateful to even be a voice for my people because I feel like that is the least, that's literally 0.000% of what I could be doing as a Palestinian living abroad. But it also feels a bit different because people here make you feel like, why are you bringing this to New Zealand? New Zealand is so far away. What do we have to do with this, etc., etc. But also, I think in the last 2 years in particular, we have built a nice community and movement here in Dunedin. People that I call whānau now because they are our whānau. We are all part of each other. Um, and I think it's been nice to see the good side of humanity in the past 2 years. But what also touched my soul at the end of just last year, I actually went and visited Palestine after 9 years of not being in Palestine. And for me, that overfilled my cup. My cup can't be more filled right now after that visit. There's nothing like being home, home. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you said Jenin is your second home, but Palestine is home. And let's talk about that, how do you, first of all, how do you fly into Palestine? What is the journey like? Is it an easy, let's talk about the real
The
life
real
stuff.
world behind, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, no, it's not easy. It's not cheap either.
yeah.
Basically, after doing the 17-hour big flight from, let's say, Auckland to Doha or Dubai, um, then let's say you just go take another flight to Jordan, which is our like final plane destination as Palestinians. That on its own is one phase of the journey, which is a very
Mhm.
tiring phase, but that is one phase. But then the bigger phase is having to cross the borders between Jordan to Palestine, going through the Jordanian border, which is fine, then the Israeli border, and then the Palestinian border, and then having to take a car ride to your home,
Mhm.
which on the way you could face so many different things. I was very, very, very anxious before I went because I wasn't expected to be even allowed into the country. Because, after the last 2 years in particular, you just start thinking and questioning everything. And you're like, oh, will they let me in? Will they question me? Um, but yeah, once I got through, I started crying because I was like, oh my God, this is just a dream. And it is a dream because I know so many Palestinians. Um, Not just talking about the last 2 years, but there are Palestinians that can't go into Palestine Palestine for simply holding a particular document or not having a particular document or holding a specific passport or yeah. So it is a long journey, very, very tiring, but I would do it again, 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 and again.
Amazing. And what is it like for you as you after you wiped your tears and you got home to see your, use the word tribe. What is it like to see your tribe again?
It was amazing. I never felt safer in my life. It was just amazing. Just once you remember and feel what it's like to be home again, you don't want to let go of that feeling. The main purpose of my visit, though, was that my granddad from my mum's side had a couple of strokes and was in hospital, still is in hospital as we speak. But that was my main purpose of the visit. I wanted to go and see him because he means a lot to me, and my grandparents will forever mean a lot to me because they are the reason we're all here today.
Yeah.
Um, but being with my tribe, yeah, nothing really compares to that. It was the best feeling of the world for me, highlight of 2025.
Amazing, amazing. And this your words will never be able to fully express how that feels. So I can appreciate that there. And what is it? And I'm asking lots of what is it like because it's so interesting to me.
It's
And
okay.
I asked from the perspective of, the media portrays certain countries in certain ways. And I say this because again, when people think about Zimbabwe I'm from, they think about, oh, it's just crazy. And I'm like, actually, it's not actually like what you see on the TV screen. So I'd love for you to
Yes.
share with our listeners what it's actually like on the ground.
Oh my God, this is something you've literally just, we say in Arabic, taken the words out of my mouth. So you just did that. Um, exactly. I think part of me going home was to also reflect and show people that Palestine is not what you see on TV. Palestine is not just ethnic cleansing. It's not just a genocide. It's not just occupation. Palestine has real people with real dreams, with hopes. It's got everyday people that simply want to live. They want to educate their children. They want to raise their children. They want to get married. They want to have engagement parties. They want to simply live. And by going home and by seeing my cousins and aunties and uncles and grandparents, it just gave me more resilience than I already had because basically they made me stronger by seeing how. Of course, I used to live with them and I know exactly what it's like to live under occupation. But in the last 2 years, you can tell how ruthless a particular group of people has gotten and how things are really difficult back home at the moment. We're talking bad economy, we're talking bad, people are not even getting paid for their jobs or salaries, or everything is being controlled by Israel at the moment back there, more than it ever has before. So, but yeah, putting all of that aside, Palestine is not what you see on TV. Palestine is a beautiful country with beautiful people, beautiful culture, food, spices, the language. And I think going there after 9 years, I was like, why am I not making more of an effort to go home? Like, more often. But I guess, well, in the last 2 years, it would have been really actually risky to go.
Yeah.
Um, but if you don't take the risk, then you'll never know what is at the other side of the
That's-
world. So, or
Yeah.
waiting for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so true. We can live a life of fear, but if you live a life of fear, you're not actually growing. There's obviously you have to be safe and all that kind of stuff there, but sometimes you are so taken by fear that you actually don't do anything.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
and what I love about when I was reading about you, what I love about you is, the voice that you have, and what you bring up is just fact. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. And sometimes people fight against facts with opinions, and I'm like, this is so crazy. One's a fact and one's an opinion. You actually, come on, guys, let's be
Yeah.
real. So I
Yeah.
want to I want to respect that there for you, but also I want to ask you a question that's pretty random. What is the national dish of Palestine? What's your favorite food?
Very good question. And I really, yeah, that was a big part that I really enjoyed when I was home because I am blessed with so many family members that have so many different, know how to cook. Basically, I really don't know how to cook, but I need to start learning. Um, and using the spices that I brought back with me. Um, my favorite would probably be, I'm just going to list them all. I love
Go nuts, go
maklouba.
nuts.
Maklouba is a national Palestinian dish. It's the upside down. I'm sure you've seen it before in videos, especially coming out of Gaza. So maklouba, but I like my maklouba with betinjan, with eggplant. I don't like it with cauliflower at all. Sorry, mum and dad, you already know this. Um, mansaf, which is it's more of a Jordanian dish, but it's very famous in Palestine. Um, Musakhan, which is very famous Palestinian dish, mainly because we use sumac and olive oil, very traditional Palestinian items. And actually, let's wipe all of those out because I've just remembered my actual favorite, which I had a lot of when I was home. Basically, stuffed grape leaves, so stuffed vine leaves. In Arabic, we call it waraq, and my aunties really know how to make it. And yeah, I've enjoyed it. I think at least 3 times when I was there, which was um, yeah, very tasty. I
I'm
love
s-
what I know.
I'm seeing you salivating right now as you think about it. Hey.
I am. My eyes are sparkling.
Yeah.
And then dessert, it would be knafa. Knafa is my absolute favorite. My cousins even make it at home now, and it's just phenomenal. Just yeah.
How good, how good, how good. I asked that because, as you said before, people just think about one side of any country, but they
Yeah.
forget that actually, hey, there's so much depth and food is one of the, any culture, food is, in fact, I'm going to rephrase that. In every indigenous culture in the world, food is where people come together.
Yeah, 100%. And we've been trying to bring that aspect here in Dunedin as well, just getting people to know our food and by, yeah, my mum cooking or my mum-in-law cooking or the ladies in the community cooking, because this is who we are. This is part of who we are. The food, the spices. Also, there's something when we're making food and it's called nafas. So nafas, I'd say directly translates to the word breath, but it's nafas is like what you add to the cooking, that it's like your magical touch basically. So um yeah, I've got many ladies in my life that have a good nafas, and that is just beautiful.
It's crazy as you talk about this. I think about my upbringing in Africa, and my grandmother and my mom would go, there'd be like a 20, 30, 40, 50 ladies just coming together to cook whatever for a wedding or for whatever. And I think about that in New Zealand. It's like, oh, I miss that because I don't have that here. But it's
Yeah,
crazy. It's just such a crazy. And the other day I was just going for a walk and I just saw a community of people doing it. I was like, oh, this is so cool that people are still bringing their own cultures into
it
where
is
they live,
nice.
which is
Yeah,
which is very cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And what is it like for you? Now you're a mum and you're a wife, and you the world of Palestine has changed in the last 2 years dramatically. How do you speak to young people about this? Because obviously, they see the world in so many different ways, and people will be saying things and comments. How is it like for you as a mum as you navigate that?
Really, really hard, very difficult, especially that every time I look into my daughter's eyes, I remember the kids of Gaza. I remember the mothers of Gaza. I remember the fathers of Gaza and of Palestine, and the losses that they have gone through and are going through. Yeah, very hard. It's been really hard to balance life. It's been really hard to parent. I've had my worst moments, I've had my best moments. Um, More than I would ever have gone through as a normal parent, let alone with this whole genocide thing. It's just been almost unbearable. It has been unbearable. It has been hard, but I still need to get up every morning, dress my child for school, dress myself to work, put a face on at work, pretend there's nothing happening in my background, pretend there's nothing happening in my home country, because at the end of the day, you also want to continue with your normal life. You still need to pay your bills, pay your rent. Um, so it has been hard, to say the least. but also I'm saying that with a privilege, and
Yeah.
even talking about that feeling of it being that parenting has been hard is also a privilege, because why has it been hard for me? I've got food, I've got water, I've got a house, I've got a job, I've got my family that I love around me. Why has it been hard for me? So even talking about the feeling of that is quite heavy, because you can't even. It's like, yeah, you're. It's quite silly to think of it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also human as well, right? We're all humans, and we step away and we go when we go up a little bit. You actually, I heard this again. I love using quotes, which is the quote I heard is really powerful. It said, "The hardest thing you face is the hardest thing you faced," and I like that because your heart and my heart are very different, but it doesn't invalidate anybody's heart.
No,
So whenever people talk to us, like, yeah, the hardest thing you face, the hardest thing you face. So you cannot. So as you speak about this, you go, actually, it is hard because you're navigating these two worlds here because it's your reality, um, and it's the truth, it's your reality, and
it
you want to be
is.
the best version in both those spaces, but also for your daughter.
And you also want to keep on top of your mental health. You want to keep on top of your physical health, everyday life. And it's like, well, how do I even do this? But I think the one thing that kept me going in the last 2 years has obviously been whānau, has been family, being grateful, and all of that faith. So the iman that we have in God, the faith that we
Mhm.
have in God as Muslims in particular, has really made me stronger and kept me going. But also the fact that I'm not the only one going through this.
Yeah,
Just reading, quotes, poems on Instagram, people, speaking about what they're going through at the moment too. And I'm like, oh, that speaks me. That's exactly me. Oh, hey, yes, me too. Putting my
yeah.
hand up, because, yeah, people are feeling the same and I'm not the only one. But I guess I've got that extra layer of being Palestinian, which is the layer that really makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, just as a different complexity, which only you or someone else is Palestine, will be able to express again. Um, and we live in a world where it's so polar, it's so polarizing, and especially in a world where people don't understand, where they just take a stance on whatever way. What would you say to people who just take a stance without understanding? And I ask this not in a good or bad way, but just because sometimes people just say they jump on a bandwagon, whatever it could be, pro Israel, pro Palestine. It could be rugby league, whatever. They just jump on something. What would you say to someone who just jumps on a bandwagon?
I would say that I feel sorry for you. Yeah,
Mm,
I feel sorry for them, because if you're not standing up for what's right now in 2026, then I don't know why you're living. Yeah. Yeah. And I understand, people are going through their own struggles, people are going through their own things. And I know, and I'm sure you've come across so many people that literally don't care and just live on, in their own little bubble. Um, but as part of being a human being is looking after one another. And why are you not doing that? What else are you wanting to? Yeah, I just simply feel sorry for those people. That's all.
Yeah, and I love that because and it goes back to fact and opinion, right? You can have an opinion, that's cool, but an opinion is not a fact. And I and I
No.
always I always come back to that because we now live in a world full of opinions. Go to any platform, there's an opinion, and people will like, yeah, actually, wait a minute, where does it? That opinion is not. It's just an opinion. It's someone's thought. Like I can just have an opinion, and it means nothing. But the
Yeah,
world portrays that as a fact, and then you argue against facts. It's what's happening,
exactly.
in anywhere in the world where there's genocide. What's happening in Palestine, and anyway, there's a fact and there's opinion. And for someone like yourself who knows facts, what is it like for you with someone who has facts and you talk to someone who has opinions? Because I'm saying this because you obviously you're the voice, you're a face, and you'll be facing people. You have lots of love, but you have those who are anti. How do you navigate that?
Luckily, I have not. I've only navigated and saw those people really through Facebook comments and warriors. So luckily, the block button had to do. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's just like when you look at what's really happening in Gaza, you look at the photos, you look at the videos, and especially that I've come from there, come from Palestine, I know exactly what's happening without seeing anything. And you're like, I feel sorry for this person more than I feel sorry for a girl um, who is like drowning under a tent right now, because at least she's got faith. She knows what's happening. She knows what's right from wrong. But this person is just, just arguing with opinions as of, and I think it's just that privilege that people have. Like, they've got everything they want. Why should they care about the other side of the world? Um, yeah, so luckily I haven't really faced those people face to face, and I think we're quite lucky, to be honest, here in Dunedin. We don't have that particular. We do have a lot of people who are against what we're doing, and you know, Palestinians started this, etc., etc. But on the other side, I think the majority here are, yeah, I'd say pro humanity. Yeah,
Yeah. It's a
which
pretty
is
chill
good.
place. It's a pretty chill place, Dunedin. I still
Yes,
remember
it's cold
when
but special.
yeah, it's literally yeah. I mean, I spent most of my life. It's my second home as well.
Yep.
And I still remember when New Zealand opened its borders for the Syrian refugees and they came to Dunedin, and I remember that, and I was like, it's pretty cool that Dunedin was like, you come to us, that speaks a lot about
Yep.
the people.
Yep.
Yeah,
Very diverse, very multicultural, and it's even gotten more in the last, let's say, 7, 10 years or so. So it's just
yeah,
beautiful to see the diversity.
yeah. It's a pretty
Yeah.
cool place. It's a pretty cool place. Renat, so we spoke about all these cool things, but I just want to talk about your professional stuff as well. So you said your dream was to help people, elderlies with IT.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that still something that you do, or is that yeah,
Yes.
in your
Yeah, so I guess it's always just in the back of my mind, but also, yeah, I work for an energy company in New Zealand, and we do sell broadband and mobile. So I work in the mobile and broadband department, and so part of my everyday life, which is why I lose my voice all the time. We were talking about this at the start, is that troubleshooting and helping people through navigating on their phone, or how to set up their modems, or how to get onto the internet. So I guess I am sort of doing that in my everyday life, but I don't know where that will take me. But I'm really happy where I am now, quite content. I don't like change when it's not needed, and I don't feel like I need to change anything at the moment. But you never know when a new opportunity comes up, or a new job offer, or anything. But yeah, I quite like that IT sort of, basically people getting people connected. I like that idea.
yeah, and what's cool about that is people always say to me when I was in my last job, I want to help people, and people think doctor, lawyer, blah blah blah, and I was like, you can help people doing
Yeah,
anything, every job in the world is
exactly.
helping people. So
Yeah,
I love the way you put that. So so here we go. You are a mum, you're a wife, you work at an energy company, you are a pretty awesome human being, and you also run a podcast. You also run a podcast. Let's talk about that
yeah.
there. What was the motivation for running the podcast? And also the lovely name.
Yes.
Lovely name.
So thank you. It's yeah, I've got the watermelon report, sowing the seeds of justice. I thank Arena from Aura FM for helping me come up with that name. But and all the staff at Aura FM, because they are awesome. And they yeah, basically helped me come up with this whole idea. But yeah, the watermelon report, which is recorded on Spotify, Apple Podcast. It's every Thursday, 8:30 p.m. on ORFM, and also Wednesdays on Wellington Access Radio. It's where I bring Palestine to New Zealand. It's where I bring Palestine to Dunedin, and I talk about what's happening back in my home country, but also I, especially for this year, I think I want to try and bring the beauty of Palestine to those podcasts, and show people more of a cultural Palestine than a genocidal Palestine.
I love that. And what we'll do is we'll put the links in the show notes so we can jump on and have a listen, because I think that's pretty cool. But my question for you is, what made you start that? You live a busy life already, and you're like, oh, let's just chuck on something else just because why not?
Yeah, I guess as I mentioned before, it's what I'm doing is the least I could be doing as a Palestinian, and I think this
Yeah.
is a huge opportunity for me as a Palestinian in Dunedin to basically have a voice for my people. So I don't know where that podcast will go. I don't know where this show will go. But I know I can interview people on it. I can basically make it however I like. Um, it's just a space, I guess, for me, for my whānau, for our community here in Dunedin, let's say Palestinian community, which is nice. It's nice to have that space. And yeah, again, I don't know where it's going. So yeah, it is an extra thing that I'm doing, but it's a beautiful extra thing.
Yeah, it's a bit like what we said this when I spoke about our podcast, it's still a passion, right? It's not about making money, it's not about becoming famous. It's just, hey, I'm just sharing a story with
Just
the
having a
world.
voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just having a voice, which is pretty cool. And
One
also, you're
more
like,
thing to use my voice for
I,
during the
I,
week.
I was gonna say, and I mean, it's not like you don't like talking, right?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We've been speaking for almost an hour, Rinad, which is just flown by so fast.
It
I know
really
this,
has.
yeah, it's pretty crazy, hey? And there's so much depth we can get into, but in the interest of time and also we can get you back again and go into more depth. But what I
I
would
would
love,
actually love that. I was going to say I like the sound of this, so I would love to be here again.
totally, we would love to have you back and we can deep dive into a different area. But
Definitely.
before I let you go, because we're not that kind here, we have one question that we ask every single one of our guests before we say goodbye. And the question is, our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge. And every episode we invite our guests to share something to put into our basket of knowledge. And this can come from any part of your life, something that you think myself, our listeners would maybe use in their life from your learnings.
Thank you for putting me on the spot. You did not tell me about this beforehand, just telling people out there. No, I think, to be honest, be grateful for what you have right now because it is a dream for others. Be grateful for there's actually a poem by Mahmoud Darwish. You can all look it up. It is titled basically it starts off saying when you're making it's titled Think of Others. So look up Think of Others by Mahmoud Darwish. He is a Palestinian poet, but basically it's saying when you're making your breakfast in the morning, think of others. When you're making your dinner, think of people in the tents, etc., etc. So I think just be grateful for what you have and who you are. And nothing in life comes easily enough. You do need to fight to get to what you want, but the journey is much more beautiful than the destination. Wow,
Yeah.
that was deep. Anyway,
Oof. We
that's
got
it.
we got we got so deep so quickly.
Lots to go into the basket.
Yeah, what I love there, the basket you've chucked in gratitude, gratefulness. It's important to be grateful for the life that we have. And what I love is the line that you just said there. The life that you have right now is somebody else's dream. That
Yeah.
is so powerful if you think about that and thinking about others. We live in a world where we just think about me, 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 me all the time, just because of the way we've been programmed. And if we just take one moment and whatever it is, having breakfast or dinner, just to think about someone else, it might just change the way you think about your particular world. And also your last one, which is think about the journey, not the destination. Even if it's 17 hours on a flight, it's gonna be fun.
And I hate flights and I hate turbulence, just saying. But I did well.
But you enjoy the journey, right?
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. Renat, any last words before we close off this podcast today?
No, just yeah, thank you for having me. Again, I'd be more than happy to come in here again and yeah, basically talk about other aspects of life or same aspects but a bit deeper. And yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful 2026.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Renat. For our listeners out there, hopefully you have not just learned something new, but also had a different perspective about what you think about Palestine. And a great way to think about that is also to go on to Renat's podcast, which we'll chuck in the show notes, which is going to give you a much, much, much get a perspective of, life in Palestine and what it's actually about, but also what an epic human Rinad is. And, if you check out her socials, she's pretty active on there. And there's some pretty cool stuff and fun stuff and informative stuff that she posts on there as well. So Rinad, from myself and from Tane and from Boston Knowledge, thank you for joining us. And for our listeners, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. If you haven't enjoyed it, go back and listen again because you probably fell asleep, and that's not on me. So till next time, take care. Don't forget to put something into your basket of knowledge. And like Renard said, don't forget to be grateful because life is life. Till next time, bye everybody. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.